Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Superficial Spirit, your one stop shop for all things incredibly religious, deeply, deeply religious. Like we are starting a religion here. Superficial Spirit requires a lot of commitment and rigorous training and clear moral boundaries to participate. So thank you for tuning in. I will be sending everybody my list of commandments momentarily. We have a really great show for you today. And to get things started, she doesn't like God, but damn it! I messed it up. Hang on. She does. She doesn't like God, but she sure likes a good deal. It's Jess.
You make it sound like I shop at like TJ Maxx or some shit.
Yeah.
Actually,
How are you, Jess?
I'm great.
And is he manifesting love or manifesting muscles? It's Derek.
I'm thinking I could be going home tonight, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's a game, and I came here to win.
You're winning with me, baby. One day, I hope that we have the time, resources, and energy to to edit all of these intros together. When we do our first live tour, it'll be like it'll play all of the intros that I've ever said, and then you each will stand behind a curtain, and the curtain will rise very slowly with intro music, and the crowd will go wild, and we will walk down the runway. Okay?
Love it.
Okay.
Love it.
So last week we chatted about Kim Petras' new song, "If Jesus Was a Rock Star." Things got a little spicy, which was great. I think, Derek, one thing that I love about you is that you are a mirror to me and my beliefs sometimes, and it's a great opportunity to really either double down on what you think about something or to be like, okay, let me consider this in a new way. And that conversation definitely trickled over into like the DMs for me. One person, when I posted a clip on the podcast, said that I need to stop talking about Jesus because that's not what Kim Petras meant and I need to leave her alone. Although it wasn't broken English, so I think maybe they weren't interpreting what I was saying right. I was just like, thanks for tuning in. Somebody else messaged me and said that they felt like Kim Petras was reclaiming Jesus, reclaiming her religion, similar to how we would quote unquote reclaim the F word, fag. I can say it because I'm gay. So I found that was a super spicy topic. Like I did not anticipate it to last for an entire episode. I also didn't think that it would spark a lot of conversations offline, but it did. And it just reaffirmed my curiosity about the way that pop culture and spirituality mix. And I think, well, I know when I started the show, it was from my personal experience of knowing that my personal connection with pop culture and my spirituality were linked. And I could see it in a many different ways. And that's why the show was started. I was curious, did other people have this experience with pop culture? Did they have fame obsession? Did they have celebrity worship? And did that in some way open them up to a spirituality, or at least make them curious about how they fit into the world in a broader sense? This also got me thinking about like, wow, on the show, Superficial Spirit, we haven't really zeroed in on specific celebrities or moments in which pop culture and spirituality touch. We talk about it philosophically, we talk about it from an experiential sense, but I would really like to uncover, deep dive, take a look at pop culture and figure out what moments, what people stand out to us as moments where pop culture and spirituality mix. So I have some thoughts to get us started today. But Derek, you have some thoughts on the intro there?
Just on, people can people can definitely take whatever inspiration out of art and pop culture that they want to, and they do. Oh my gosh, do they? Do people ever reach for meaning and find it in places that it was not supplied to them to find in the first place? But just commenting on the Kim Petras, you know, I can write a better Kim Petras song right now. Watch me do it. I suck Jesus' dick. He nutted in my pussy. I got immaculately pregnant with the next coming, and we are in love. We're in love, and Jesus is my boyfriend for real. Like, like that's reclaiming. I just reclaimed Jesus for Kim Petras. All she did was say if a thing I didn't like was something I liked, then I would like it. Okay, like I just reclaimed Jesus the way that faggot is reclaimed. Okay, I did a better job than she did. Anyway, go ahead.
Derek, the songwriter, thank you. You can be a collaborator on my next album.
Like, but
But
that's
this is
better. Now I'm saying I'm creating a world in which I, Kim Petras, now I'm in love with Jesus. Actually, I have a relationship with him. I'm closer to him than your ass, who tried to kick me out of the religion in the first place. I may be trans, but Jesus loves this trans pussy. You know what I mean? Like that's better.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
He loves me anyway. Do you know what I mean?
When you're approaching inspiration, like you bring up a good point, people can uncover inspiration where it may or may not have been intended. That's definitely me. Hello, Paris Hilton, as a conduit of a spiritual awakening. That is not what she was intending. That is not what the media was trying to create when they created Paris Hilton. But my personal experience was it opened me up in some way. And when you're approaching the conversation of spirituality, there are two things I feel like. One is somebody's personal experience. They had an experience, they identify it as spiritual, and the other is something we can all agree is a spiritual practice. And I think when that line is blurred, and when you're kind of riding the line between somebody's personal experience and also is this something that was intended to be spiritual, it gets fucking spicy and it gets interesting because spirituality is fucking personal for people. If you are spiritual and you do identify as it, chances are it's had a profound impact on your life, and you want to protect it and you want to stand up for it and you're passionate about it, you want to share it. And it's the same for pop culture. If you have so much time and energy invested into a certain celebrity, into a certain song, into a certain show, and it represents spirituality or it represents some profound thing in your life, you are going to be equally as passionate defending it. So I think that's why it's so fucking interesting, pop culture and spirituality, because when the two shall meet, there will be great wars, great battles. And we on the show want to get down to the bottom of it and figure out what the is going on. Derek?
Yeah, I do think it's I think it's interesting. I'm glad we're talking about this, and I'm glad this is sound we're like breaking on the show. I think that sometimes it's spirituality, but sometimes the thing, like, people are emotional about the thing they like, and then sort of because of that they're unable to like evaluate it objectively, and I think that's all it is. Sometimes that thing is spirituality, sometimes that thing is Kim Petras. It might just be a Kim Petras fan who, if it was coming from somebody else, they'd be like, this song is vapid and means nothing, but it's Kim Petras, so they're like, it's actually really deep and it means a lot to me and I got a lot from it, and that's fine. Like, you can feel that way. I'm thinking about Pokemon right now because I'm playing the new Pokemon game and it's objectively horrible. Like, it's a great game, it's fun, but it performs horribly, glitches and bugs every goddamn 5 seconds. But there are people on the internet going, it's an amazing game, this is the best they've ever done, it's the furthest step for the Pokemon franchise. And it's like, you can like things about it, but you have to acknowledge this game is buggy as fuck, right? And it's just your emotion, it's the fact that you like Pokemon emotionally from, being a 5-year-old when it first came out and sticking with the series up until now. That's the reason why you're saying what you're saying. You're not being objective. So that's the way I think some people are probably reacting to the takes on Kim Petras. There's not really objectively, like, they're not saying something that's actually there that they pulled out of it. They're saying, I love Kim Petras, or I have a relationship with a religion, but not that this thing is articulately representing them in a certain way. Like, they're confusing those two things, in my opinion.
I wanted to start today with Madonna. I did make a list of people, shows, moments in pop culture that I feel really are opportunities to explore spirituality. Madonna seems like an obvious starting off point because she came up on the last episode and because she has been using bold religious symbolism in her music videos and performances for her whole career. I mean, she's burned crosses in the music videos. She has started concerts with a crown of thorns being crucified on a cross. She had Black Jesus in one of her music videos. And she was also part of a wave of celebrities who were obsessed with Kabala, wearing the red string, talking about Jewish mysticism, and creating the Ray of Light album based on her spiritual awakening. Really, really interesting figure if you want to look at Madonna from a spiritual lens, because two thoughts. One, she built a career based on controversy. She's not the best singer. She's not the best dancer. She's not really the best anything, but she knew her brand and she pushed it. And she was really good at keeping people talking. So my questions are, what are your general thoughts about Madonna and her use of religious symbolism? And that's one thing, like general opinions, but also what is the responsibility of someone on that platform using it as a way to talk about spirituality? Because before we came on today, I was watching some YouTube clips. Madonna has been very open about her spirituality. She's very open about the fact that money and fame, she thought they were going to make her happy. They didn't. And now it's God. She talks very openly about Kabbalah and how she feels like it was, it predates religion. It's actually what religion was based on. Um, she's very open about her spirituality and how it's affected her life and how it's made it better and how everything sort of emanates from this spiritual practice that she's created. It's not a part of religion. It's not a part of any particular practice, though she does like yoga, though she does do Kabbalah. It's very much a personal experience that she talks very openly about over and over and over again. And you do see symbols and stuff come up in her music. So when we're considering moments in pop culture and people who combine pop culture and spirituality, I think she was a good place to start. So um, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so in preparation for our chat today, I was just rewatching the video of Like a Prayer, and it is so fantastic. I don't know, I was almost crying. I don't know if I loved it so much because I remember waking up as a child, okay, again, old millennial here, running down and putting on MTV and just like watching her video. So I don't know if I was like excited with nostalgia, but it's just like so good with like symbolism. And, she really touches on race and what's going on in the world then. Obviously now too, it's still relatable. So I was just like, wow, this is such a good video. And I just always loved that song. And then of course it made me think of like our conversations again last week with Kim Petras, where I was like, no, like stop putting your religious beliefs in your songs and on people and on fans. But I'm like, but I love this Madonna song, but I do think they are so different. For some reason, the Kim Petras song to me, because it sounds almost so country and it's talking about Jesus, where it's almost like I'm still confused what she's trying to talk about. And she's almost is she trying to get that country fan to be like, yeah, Jesus Christ, love this song, I'm also like maybe triggered by the word Jesus, just because now for me, when you say Jesus, I think of like red hats, MAGA, people against abortion for some reason. They're just all clunked together. And I'm like, no, no, no. So maybe that's a whole nother topic. But back to Madonna, I absolutely love that song, love that video. I started doing some research and I'm really relating to her human experience because she has a quote from the 1989 issue of Rolling Stone about her Catholic upbringing that gave her a feeling of guilt all the time. The quote is, "Once you're a Catholic, you're always a Catholic in terms of your feelings of guilt and remorse and whether you've sinned or not. Sometimes I'm racked with guilt when I needn't be. And that to me is left over from my Catholic upbringing, because in Catholicism, you're born a sinner and you're a sinner for all your life. No matter how you try to get away from it, the sin is within you all the time." And I can relate to this growing up as a Roman Catholic as well. When you're a child, you just learn about this God who's kind of, a mean God, right? Like, you're not allowed to do this or that. A vengeful God. Doesn't really sound like the kind of God I wanted to believe in later in life, and therefore I didn't. But I'm really relating to Madonna again because I'm like, okay, I was, growing up with this Roman Catholic upbringing, and now what? And then I was searching, and she was searching, and she found Kabbalah, and I found like more so like New Age stuff, and we're all in the search in life, and so I don't know what I'm trying to say here other than that I am relating to Madonna and I am okay with her singing about her religious beliefs. Derek.
I want to ask.
Peter.
Wait. Sorry. I want to ask a follow up to this. Because one thing that you said last week that really stood out to me, Jess, was, it's irresponsible of celebrities to talk about their spirituality because there is no way to control how somebody it may affect somebody, and it could take them in a dangerous direction. And I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you're relating that back to, tarot readers and manifesting and sort of these messages that get put out without any, asterisks to this might be bullshit, and
Right.
people live their life. So my question for you is Madonna a good spiritual role model?
I think that's hard to answer, but I don't think her song or her music video is saying like, I believe in this. You should believe in it too. I think it's trying to show contradiction and what I just like quoted her about. And hey, I'm a person trying to figure this out because this is what I used to believe in and now I'm not so
Mm-hmm.
sure, and look what's kind of like wrong with the church and society when she brings in like the race factor too. So I think she's bringing more of thought-provoking statements to her music, where the Kim Petras thing again was just confusing. um Not sure what you think, Derek. Is Derek okay?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I forgot where my mute button was. I'm typing notes, so I'm turning my mic off so it doesn't click clack. Yeah, I mean, so with the general question of like, what do I think of Madonna? Like, I mean, she's done a lot of great stuff, mostly in like the 80s and 90s, unfortunately. But my general thoughts, I mean, and she also really, I don't think, I'm not too familiar with her current stuff, but she hasn't used a lot of religious imagery and theming in her songs and music videos lately. I think, Peter, you said she has like worn the crown, like her stage shows might be way more loaded with this imagery because she'll wear the crown of thorns and stuff. Maybe I haven't really seen that, but let's assume she does. I sort of feel like she has earned this in a way that, say, someone like Kim Petras, I wouldn't say has. I mean, anyone can use any artistic imagery they want to, but given that I think Madonna has pulled it off before in a way that's excellent, and given that Kim Petras is just now trying to it in a way that I don't think is excellent, that's why I would say she's earned it, whereas Kim Petras hasn't. Again, Kim Petras can use whatever she wants to, and Godspeed to her, we might say, and continuing to explore this and seeing where it leads her. But I think Madonna's use of the imagery of spirituality and the way she's talked about it in the past has been a lot more symbolic, has been a lot more loaded with meaning. I mean, we could take any creative product and just analyze that, but we've already mentioned like a prayer, so let's talk about that. Like, so what is she doing, right? So what is that video? She's I think singing about a sex experience, probably. But the video is loaded with, she's got this gospel choir that's kind of like, in this church, is kind of a guide to her through this spiritual sex delusion she seems to be having, right? She's dancing in front of these burning crosses wildly and freely and joyfully, but the burning crosses are an intimidation tactic that Ku Klux Klan used against Black people in the Jim Crow sort of days, right? In the segregation days. So what's that mean? Like, she's almost saying like, and I'm going to dance anyway, not because I'm careless about this, intimidation tactic against Black people, but because they, in the context of this music video, they're acting as my guides, and I'm an ally almost to them, is what I get from it. I get like, and we're dancing anyway, right? You can't kill our spirit, right? Is what I get from it. And the Black Jesus, right, comes to life in her sexual fantasia, and she's kissing the Black Jesus's feet. And the idea of a Black Jesus is obviously probably pretty offensive to most Christians who seem committed to the idea that this Egyptian man was white. Um, so she's really doing stuff there, and even if it's not immediately clear to somebody, even if we could write 10,000 words on this, right? On just like a prayer, and people have. But at least you can, for me, it's so clearly so much more loaded than something like what Kim Petras is doing with imagery. And Jess, I love that you brought up Madonna's history, like as a Catholic, because there's a sort of credibility there, and there's a mixture of this pain, I think, this sort of darkness, with that transcendence you can find that I think Peter talks about a lot, where you can feel a freedom from that, but still have a relationship, like I think Madonna's describing, like with the Jesus that she knows. She knows a different Jesus. She has come to know a different Jesus. And maybe it's through the guidance of the Black people in this music video, right? Maybe that's the world she's creating. Maybe that's the idea, is I found him sort of like through people who have a better relationship with Jesus than my Catholic, whatever. A million things. We can take a million things out of it. But there's so much there, I feel. And I guess that's what I feel about it. And then regarding Kabala, I'm glad you brought that up too, because if the question that you are interested in, Peter, is like, when do celebrities like have a spiritual or a religious or a capacity to influence people towards spirituality or religion, that definitely happened, because that was a trend for a while. Madonna picked up Kabbalah, and then everybody fucking picked up Kabbalah. Apparently you did too, yeah. So, Britney picked it up, Lindsay Lohan and Para, everybody jumped on this. And so I think, it's an interesting question. I don't think that necessarily one music video or cultural output like a prayer or a song like Jesus Fucked My Transgender Pussy or whatever Kim Petras was singing about, I don't think those necessarily, because religion is such an oft-used set of imagery and symbols, because it's such well-worn territory, I don't think those individual things influence people to become religious. But when a celebrity with a huge amount of influence, like, authentically performs in some way, well, whether authentically or not, performs religiosity in their sort of real daily life, that seems to have a capacity to catch on.
Does it matter if, because what I'm hearing from you both is like, specifically with Like a Prayer, is Madonna seemed to find a good balance of using strong religious symbolism to comment on the state of culture and perhaps give us a glimpse into what her personal experience was. And because she wasn't presenting a specific idea, she was only using images, and it was a great song. And in the moment, and even now, like Jess, you said, like looking back and it's 2022, it still evokes a very strong emotion from people when they watch it. It says something about her artistry. And the fact that she's not telling you explicitly what her beliefs are. She's just sharing some visuals and some art. Does it matter if the intent behind Madonna's video was to create controversy or not? And if you go back to the idea that, just this is giving you an emotion because you're like, wow, like, what a great way to comment on culture with such a great song and such a powerful woman. Would it affect your experience of that song in that video if you knew Madonna was like, what can I do to get people talking? Let's burn crosses, honey. Let's get a Black Jesus. And it really didn't mean anything to her. She was just kind of putting out a brand. That's my question for you guys. Does the intent behind the art matter?
I think so. Yeah. If I thought she was just trying to stir up shit for no reason, I'd be like, okay, well, this seems inauthentic. And also if her intent was, if it was produced differently and her intent was like, I want to try to, get more people to follow Jesus and become Roman Catholic, then, and if I knew that and she was very open about that being the reason, then yes, I would be turned off by that. And I was reading, it seemed like some of the biggest controversy with the church was the burning crosses in the video. But that's, all I could find.
It was a big one.
That, yeah.
It was a big one. I mean, she also was this, I don't know if it was during Like a Prayer, but she was also simulating masturbation around this time on stage, and she was threatened. I think the Pope was going to kick her out of the church and they were going to arrest her. So yeah, it's a common theme of her, of like sort of like trying to create that controversy. Whether it was like, I want to talk to you about sexual repression, so I'm going to put this masturbating scene in my show, or it's like, how can I get people talking? Derek, what do you think about the intent behind the art? How does that affect what you think about it?
I think it matters a bit in you would consider it when analyzing the art, because it can often give context and framing. I'm generally more interested in the outcome and the impact, but you can and you should consider intention if that information is available. With something like, Like a Prayer, and I think Madonna's intention often is to create controversy for sure. But I think that when you have a message that's a great way of getting attention to it. Because again, using like a prayer as an example, obviously controversial. The using of a black person to represent Jesus was controversial to people. They're burning crosses, all that stuff. But then what is she really saying? Well, I think what she's saying, and again, this is something where we can have healthy disagreement that I would love. I think what she says in the song is, I can have whatever fucking relationship I want with Jesus, and you can't gatekeep it. And wink, wink, it can be a sexual one if I want it to, which I think is just, I think that's a fun part. I think she's winked a little bit when she goes, and I'll get on my knees, it's,
Yeah.
whatever. But I think really the core message is I can have whatever relationship with Jesus that I want to, and I do, and I will, in spite of you trying to gatekeep it, right? So I think the use of controversial imagery is effective in conveying that message, because it gets people, I think, to talk about it and pay attention to it, right?
I love that it combines two things. I talk about this a lot on the show. Something can be superficial and profound at the same time. You can be highly sexualized in the context of religion, prayer, Jesus, the Catholic Church, and also believe in God and have a strong conviction towards living a life of faith. It's obvious that Madonna does believe in God. She's always been open about that. And I think these two worlds mixing, to me, is what makes spirituality accessible. And this kind of goes into my next point. If you are somebody like me who has used pop culture my entire life as a guiding post of like, what kind of person do I need to be? What kind of clothes do I need to wear? What kind of art do I need to make? What does it mean to be successful? What are my ideas? Less so now in a robotic brainwashy kind of way, but definitely when I was younger, I looked, the early 2000s tabloid culture as a way to reference what I wanted to be like in the world. So when somebody wore a red string on their wrist and the tabloids were talking about Kabala, I interpreted that as cool, trendy. If celebrities do it, I'm going to do it. Didn't really think past that. I did buy red thread from fucking Shoppers Drug Mart and tied it around my wrist. Wore it to the clubs when I was 18 and told people I was a Kabbalist. Had no idea what it was. My friend Michael was one of the early guests on the show. He came on to talk about how he left AA and he went to ayahuasca. And Madonna, to him, was a conduit for spirituality because she had been so, he's about 10 years older than me, had been so big when he was growing up, kind of like my relationship to Britney. So when Madonna started opening up about spirituality, he opened up about spirituality. He looked at Madonna, if Madonna can have this rich spiritual life, then maybe that's something I want too. And maybe Michael and I are exceptions in that we actually did cultivate a personal spiritual experience that was maybe triggered by something we saw in pop culture. But I think you would see a lot of people who would emulate it, copy it, wear the beads, do the yoga, wear the Kabbalah string, and have no spiritual life, have no relationship with God. Do not think about it outside the context of I want to comment on spirituality. I want a virtue signal that I am spiritual, but there is no deeper meaning. It is very superficial. And that is also really interesting to me. So in this context of celebrities wearing the red string and inspiring people to quote unquote be spiritual, what does that mean? What responsibility is that for them to casually present spirituality in a fashionable way, have a generation of kids, and I use the term generation of kids loosely, like a percentage of people our age maybe got spiritual inspiration or became spiritually curious because of this Kabbalah movement with the red string. What does that mean? Is that responsible? Should celebrities be making this a fashionable statement or making it trendy? Derek? You are muted.
Oh, I was just going to ask if I can say one thing about the previous thing and then let Jess go forward on the newer topic, which was religion as fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add regarding, Madonna and her use of imagery there. If I wanted to clarify, what I think makes it artistic to me and artistically loaded, and the difference between, okay, so she's saying something. So if you're saying something, if your message is something as bold as I can have whatever relationship I want with Jesus, the reason that's effective to me is that it necessarily contrasts with the opposite, which is the truth, which is that religion is repressive and doesn't want you to have whatever relationship with Jesus. that you want, including a sexual one, right? And they might have sexually repressed you in many ways. Sexual abuse is going on in the Catholic Church and so on. So Madonna didn't make a video where she and Black Jesus beat up the KKK and then make out, right? She made a video saying what she wants to say, which is I can have whatever relationship with Jesus, which necessarily reveals that the opposite is the truth for many people, maybe in our experience,
Interesting.
right? So that's what's effective about it. And then through several different avenues, the lyrics and the imagery and a complete exploration of the ways she can represent those themes, that to me is what is artistic, as opposed to, I wish Jesus was different. If Jesus was completely different, I would like him and maybe we'd make out and crowd surf, right? So that for me is what is better cultural commentary. By communicating the message you intend to communicate, you reveal something that's a commentary or a criticism of the paradigm, whatever that may be. So yeah, that's what I want to say. And then yeah, we can start with Jess on the topic of religion as fashion.
Yeah, I have questions, I guess. Like, what did the red string mean?
The red
Do we
string
know?
was, you wear the red string and it wards off evil energy,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, I feel like this is a hard question because there's like, right, evil eye jewelry that wards off things, people wearing cross necklaces. There's, I don't think this is fashion, but obviously like Jewish men at times wear yarmulkes, you know, so there's different apparel pieces that you wear as part of your religion. So I think it's hard to define as like fashion or not. So where can you say I'm just wearing a cross necklace, or I'm like literally, you know, again, wearing a yarmulke for very specific reasons. So I think it's kind of a hard question. And again, it goes back to the intent of like, is it just ego? Am I just wearing this red bracelet, you know, not knowing what it means? Or for Madonna, because she's like, I want to show off. I think that's more blatant than her music. Like, I want to show off my beliefs to everyone. So I'm branded now as this belief. And I want to really showcase that out there and potentially like draw people into it. Then I think she might have known what she was doing then if she wanted people, if she, you know, even when I really believed in New Age, I wanted to tell everyone about it. And hey, oh my gosh, like read this book by Sylvia Brown that I was reading, you know, 20 years ago or whatever. This is the truth. Oh my gosh, this helped me so much. Walking around like it was my freaking Bible to like my family. So yeah, I think this is a complex question, Peter.
I love that you just brought up crosses. I didn't even think about that in the context of the question. And it's a really good insight. What's the difference between, you know, a rapper wearing a blinged out cross and Madonna wearing a red bracelet in an interview? I think the difference is there was Madonna, who was a practicing Kabbalist and deeply spiritual and was very open and honest about that in her art. And then Paris Hilton and Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan, who wore it because Madonna was wearing it. And also, like, okay, I'm going to preface this statement by saying I personally have never gone to the Kabbalah Center, but I do know people who are heavily involved. And one of the, one of the general observations of the Kabbalist community is it attracts affluent people. It's kind of a place to see and be seen. There's like celebrity Kabbalah centers, like a lot of wealthy people go there. So I think there's two things. One, if you are a Kabbalist and you're wearing the red string because it's part of your religion, that's one thing. If you're wearing it because you know paparazzi are outside the house and you want to sort of be part of that narrative in the media, then that's another thing. And the being part of the media narrative is, I think, what kind of attracts the superficial fashionable side. Because when you're reading Star Magazine and they say Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton are seen with the red string, it doesn't give any context to what that means, right? So people just pick it up and wear it. Whereas if it's an in-depth interview and Madonna is talking about what it represents to her, why it's meaningful, and then somebody chooses to go seek out Kabbalah, very different experiences because you're getting one context and the other you're not.
I appreciate that there are many people out there who will find it offensive to use something like religion as a fashion statement, to seem to be using it as an accessory. I appreciate that there are people who have relationship with religion that is positive, that means a lot to them. Personally, I do not give a single fuck if people use it for fashion. Could not care less. And I don't care if that's irresponsible. I don't care if those people are offended. Because I think that's all it is and all it's ever been. And again, this is just my opinion, but I think religion has only ever been a fashion statement in a way. It's just like many of the things we talked about on this show that are ways you adorn yourself to signal in-group belonging. Religion, I think, has only ever been that. It's only ever been a way of saying I belong in this group, and these are the set of expectations you can have for me, and it'll tell you something about how to treat me and how I'm going to treat you and what I think about the world. That's all it's ever been. So it is already fashion, in my opinion.
I love that. And also the idea that spirituality, like cultivating a personal experience, cultivating a personal spiritual experience outside of religion for some people could be considered rebellious and like going against the grain. Because another thing that Madonna had said in one of the interviews that I was watching is to her, religion is man made. It's about following rules, it's about not asking questions, it's about following blindly. And so crazy that some people, this is so crazy to me that some people would identify that as their spirituality, because I feel like spirituality to me is the exact opposite. It's freedom of expression, it's freedom to explore who you are, it's seeking out truth, like the ultimate truth for you and who you are and what your purpose is and how you engage with the world. And if you can't explore that, how would that feel to wake up every day and feel like in order to have a relationship with God, you need to live in this little box and you can't ask any questions? It, to me, it's sad. And ugh, no, thank you. Jess?
This might be for laughs, but my very first tattoo was a cross, and it was in my tramp stamp area. It's now covered up. And it wasn't even because I was like super religious. I just didn't know what else to get. And I was like, I don't know. I believed in something. So I thought that was still religious.
You're just letting God know that's the first place you want him to look. There's nothing wrong with that.
So interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't think I have any crosses now, but I've definitely worn them. I think on one of my albums, I had an upside down cross. Oh, that was another moment that Madonna had. I don't know if you remember this. I should have sent you the video to watch in advance. She performed at the Super Bowl, and the entrance, this was when it was very, 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 very popular to try and prove that celebrities were part of the Illuminati. And every time they were in public, they were doing the symbols of like, the triangles, whatever. Like every single celebrity had like incessant amounts of symbolism according to YouTube. And Madonna did this huge entrance where she's like, on a fucking, I don't even know what it's called. She had like this crown and there was horses and people carrying her. And it was this really calling card for celebrity satanic in public rituals to affirm her link to the Illuminati. That to me is like, okay, cuckoo. I do believe in the Illuminati in the sense that there's a global elite who guides civilization and society. I don't believe in the Illuminati in the sense that Madonna is performing at the Super Bowl and she's using it as an opportunity to hail Satan. That would be wild. And I do actually like that narrative, and I like watching YouTube because it's like, oh my God, kooky. But did you all see that? Do you remember that conversation when it was happening?
I don't. And I don't know how I think I used to like go down the rabbit hole on YouTube with Illuminati stuff and like totally was like, yeah, that has to be a thing. But I'm not so sure anymore. I'm sure like powerful people all over the globe like are in contact, but I don't know if it's called the Illuminati.
Oh, I mean, you can call it whatever you want. Call it what you want to call it.
I don't know if they're like
but
satanic ritualizing and drinking
no,
baby blood and
no.
making celebrities into like, I don't know, what do they kill them and like
No, they have to sacrifice a human life. I think the story was, in order to become a celebrity, you need to sell your soul to the devil. And in order to do that, it's like a human sacrifice. I know that there's a story about Lady Gaga, and her best friend is like, nobody can find her. Like, it's just fucking
No,
wild.
oh my gosh, I read the whole story too. Like, that's crazy, the Lady Gaga one. We can talk about that later. I have like probably for the past few months trying to like pray to Satan and sell my soul if possible to get the thing I'm wanting, and he's not really responding, so neither him nor Jesus want me.
Your fans want you, Jess.
I just quickly scrolled through a video trying to remind myself, what does the Super Bowl performance look like, and she just uses like kind of Egyptian looking imagery, and so I guess because Illuminati, pyramid, the eye, yeah, sure. I think if she was doing that on purpose, it was a troll. Like, I think she would do that just to be like, hey, they're going to talk about this. But I don't think that means she's harvesting adrenochrome from the children in the pizza basement or whatever.
Pizzagate.
Yeah.
I don't think she was even thinking about, I don't think there was anything about, except for that maybe cultural appropriation of the Egyptian culture would be controversial back then at all. It was like a very tame performance from Madonna, considering, except that was the performance when MIA fingered the camera. Right. And that was really, 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 really bad. Madonna like forced her to apologize. And
good. MIA is a dum-dum. She's a dum-dum. Did you know she is anti-trans now?
MIA?
She's a TERF. Yeah.
What happened? Did she say something?
So she's just one of those people that in the UK, TERF Island, who just tweets things like, sex is real. Don't, like, biology's real. And it's like, yeah, okay. Like, no one's disputing that, you dumb bitch.
Oh, the TERFs. I saw that Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, finally spoke out against, what's her name?
Oh, did he? I don't know
J.K.
about
Rowling. Yeah. Speaking of Madonna, just before we wrap things up on Madonna, have you been seeing her TikToks or her like Instagram videos?
Yep.
If you post them, I have been. I'm like, is that Madonna?
Interesting, because she's always, Evan brought up a interesting point recently that I was like, I like that. It's insightful. That Madonna's always been like kind of at the forefront of controversy in pop culture and sort of like pushing her sexuality and like, wanting to be that bitch all the time. And now that she's getting older, she hasn't stopped, sexualizing herself. Her nice big boobies are out. She has like a 20-year-old boyfriend. She's, doing her thing. But wouldn't it have been an even bigger statement and even more controversial if Madonna had just aged and not done anything to her face and not done plastic surgery and continued to be sexualized and continue to put out music without trying to stay youthful? How much more of a comment that would be on beauty standards in society if she was a 65-year-old woman like you see on the street who was still putting out music and sexualized content without the plastic surgery and without like the desperate clinging to youth. I'm not 65. I have no idea what that would feel like to be that. And to try and like reconcile that you're getting older, especially as a public figure. But don't you all think that would be such a bigger impact if she would have just aged naturally and continued to do her thing?
Yeah, a positive impact.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm mindful of like being too victim blamey, because obviously the paradigm around like women's beauty and youth standards is shouldn't be too mad at Madonna for just trying to fit within it. But I do agree that it would have, she would have looked much more lovely if she had just aged. Because I don't know, it's not too nice looking right now. And I think it's it's difficult to take too seriously any feminist commentary she might make now, given that she has tried to that she's done that she's clearly not okay with being like an older woman in Hollywood and still relevant. She clearly is. That's quite undermining to the message of just because I'm whatever age doesn't mean. But now you could see it another way. You could see a grown-ass woman can do whatever she wants with her body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jess?
Yeah. So as a woman, right now, it seems like everyone does Botox. I live in California, especially. Everyone's been doing it since they were like 30 for quote preventative. I have not done it. I don't know how I'll feel and like what I would want to do in the next 10 years because I'm nearing 40 now. So I don't know how I'm going to feel when I'm a little bit even older, but right now I'm more terrified to look like an old woman with Botox than just an old woman. So that's why I'm like
Interesting.
not doing it. But I'll let you know how I feel in the next like 5 to 10 years if I do anything at all. But yeah, I mean, I see people all the time like, yeah, she just looks like an older woman with Botox.
That's why
It's just
some
weird
young
to me.
young women in the media who have lots of work done in their 20s end up looking 50 because it's like, why are you doing that to your
Yeah,
face so young? I got
that's
Botox for the first
true.
time when I was like 26 or 27. It was a promotional thing. I got it for free, and then I was on the cover of Extra West, and I loved it. I looked 14, and I do get Botox regularly. But my biggest insecurity in my life has always been my wrinkles. And when I was in my laugh line specifically, when I was in my early 20s, I had them. I used to work at Fabutan when I was 16 and fucking tanned every day for 30 minutes for like years and years and years. So I did not take care of my skin. I felt always that I looked older and very insecure about it. People used to comment about it on YouTube when my music videos were on there, and it was just a sore spot. So I'm happy to do it because it does make me feel better about who I am. It does matter to look in the mirror and like what you see back. And I think people can comment on like, natural beauty and aging gracefully. Yeah, sure. But you know what? You're not the one waking up every day. And if people need to do that to feel better, that's great. But if you're doing it and you're still not feeling better and you're doing it over and over and over and over again, it's just like being an alcoholic and drinking to numb the pain, but it actually just takes you to a darker place. So it has to be a personal decision. Big D?
As a side note, it's also unfortunate that like we don't have great, mature music from Madonna to contrast that with and be like, but she's still doing great music. Her music is also like immature and like on trend, right? But anyway, beside the point. I just want to get Jess like based in Botox pilled a little bit on this because Botox is fantastic. I love it. And Madonna, what's going on with Madonna is not Botox. Okay, to be clear, Botox just makes the muscles atrophy, so you lose wrinkles. But Madonna has filler to high heavens.
Okay, so it's
is
filler.
she's bulgy, and yeah, there's injections in the lips and the cheeks, and she's probably got implants all over the face. That's what's going on here. So Botox is really quite benign. All it will do is smooth out your little wrinkles, and you can put it wherever you like. I only get it on my forehead. I get like maybe 52 units in the forehead. She just smooths right out, and that's it. That's all it is. But
Filler
there's a
is
lot
different.
going on with Madonna. It's not just
Well, that's
Botox.
good to know. Yeah, I've never like looked into any of that stuff, so I don't know what Botox versus fillers versus anything because it all like terrifies me.
When you see a really puffed out lips, face, all that, that's filler. That's literally injectables into your skin that plumps it out. Botox paralyzes. So you just like, if you meet somebody who like has no expression but they're laughing, that's Botox. If you meet somebody who looks like they're a puffed out alien face, that's filler. Most people get both,
Oh.
and yeah, that's kind of, there you go. It's great though. But if you don't have wrinkles, don't fucking get Botox. Like,
Yeah, sure. I mean, why
I look
bother?
so smooth.
Yeah. You don't get it.
So we have to wrap things up. We're on a little bit of a timeline today, but I did want to get. I have some. I don't know what you call it, like admin, uh, whatever stuff that I want to let the viewers know. The first is I'm adding a second episode to the week. So we'll continue to do Derek and Jess, both online
Yeah,
and off.
don't stop.
We're gonna
Do you call
be
Derek?
keeping.
I love it.
Oh, Derek, I didn't, but I will moving forward.
We are Derek.
We
We're gonna
combined, we are Derek.
We will continue to do these shows and explore hot topics. And I'm also going to add an interview in the week with people in the media Canadian celebrities, people that I know who are famous or maybe just interesting or have interesting insights into pop culture or spirituality. So please take a listen. And also, if you are a listener of the show and you've been listening for a long time, thank you. And it helps us a lot if you tell your friends about the Superficial Spirit, if you share our episodes on social media, reaching out and letting us know if you have any ideas for show topics, even if you want to come on, honey. We're open to interviewing the fans, so let us know. But that's it. There's going to be 2 episodes coming up. And please subscribe, please share. Let us know what you think and continue the ascension with us. Mwah. That was great. Thanks for talking about Madonna with me, y'all. That was a fun time.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'll see you all next week.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.